It was in 1969 that I gave my life to Jesus, and I immediately started praying for people who were persecuting me, and trying to love my enemies, trying to love those who were being horrible to me. And I started to see my prayers being answered. They changed. But it wasn't until 1982, when I'd just been appointed finance director of Burroughs, the computer company in Germany, near Frankfurt. And I was driving my car, and by this time I'd got 2 degrees and a couple of formal qualifications otherwise, and I thought I was doing really well. And then I suddenly realized as I was driving that nothing in my life would ever compare with knowing Jesus, actually knowing him as a person and enjoying his presence. And not even my wife, my wonderful wife, and my 2 wonderful boys. And as I did this, so it was as if someone had emptied a bucket of warm honey over my head. And I was immediately drunk, and I had to turn off the motorway at the next exit and just park the car and be immersed in the Holy Spirit. God did it. Nobody laid hands on me. It was just, he decided it was time I was immersed in the Holy Spirit. And immediately thereafter, I started to hear what he was saying to me. For example, and I also started to see him doing things which were miracles. I found that 4 out of the 5 people who reported to me had either resigned before I arrived or resigned within a week of my arrival. And I got in. I closed the door of my office. I got down on my knees and I said, "Lord, you've put me here. I can't do this. You've got to help." And the phone rang. And it was the previous IT manager ringing me up from London and offering me exactly what I needed, which was what I specified to him was I wanted the oldest and largest debts, because we had a huge problem with debts. We were 116 days sales outstanding, and I'd been running 30 days in my previous company. And then he would show me how to deal with each debt. So so somebody owed us 2 million Deutschmarks or dollars, and the Lord said to me, "Go and look in the payables for this. You haven't been paying them either." So we were owing them 200,000. So they didn't pay us the 2 million. So it was very simple to get the money in. And within a very short time, I'd got several million in and reduced the 116 days down to 66. So this was great, except that I then got a new boss who wanted to have credit cards on the company account, which Burroughs didn't do, and he wanted to write. The big thing was he wanted to write off an 8.5 million debt from the University of Bremen for a computer we supplied them. Write it off in the Deutschmark books to get the VAT back, but not in the dollar books. And I said that's either fraud on the shareholders or it's fraud on the company, or fraud on the shareholders or on the taxman. So it's fraud. And then God was saying to me, now I think, oh, by the way, I had gone partly blind in my right eye. I'd got a great black hole in the center of the field of vision of the right eye. And God said to me, read Matthew's gospel. Do not resist the evil man, it says. Turn the right cheek. If somebody hits you on the left cheek, turn the right cheek, and so on. And I said, why? I thought you wanted me to uphold good ethical principles here. And he said, no, I just want you to be completely dependent on me. Don't worry, I'll get you another job. So I put my resignation in on the Monday. On the Wednesday, I got a panic attack. I said, Lord, I want another high-level finance job. So why don't you heal my eye? Because I know you can do it. It was very cheeky. That was Wednesday. Saturday morning, 3 days later, the black hole was gone. Just still a ring where it had been, and then it disappeared later. And subsequently, I put my story into the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. Once I got back to the UK, to the high level, I was then supposed to take over as chief accountant of Sun Alliance Group, which is pretty high level. And then I got in touch with a charismatic prayer group in Billingshurst, near where I was living, and I was speaking in tongues on the tube, and a man put his card into my hand, and he said, "Come to us, to our prayer group. We're the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship." And when I joined them, I found that miracles were happening in almost every dinner that they held. I saw a woman who came up for prayer, and somebody put his hand on her head, and suddenly she was screaming, running around the Cafe Royal room, screaming, "I can see, I can see." And subsequently, I saw another 5 people healed of blindness. I saw people being healed of all sorts of different things. And then on one occasion, I was coming back from Poland. Oh yes, God then told me to resign from my job as I was by that time working as a management consultant for A.T. Kearney, and he told me, give up your job and go and spread the full gospel in Eastern Europe. Children at school, paying schools. I was completely crazy, but God provided. So I said to God, "You've got to provide all of the work," and He did. I never ran out of money completely. The money used to come later than I thought it was needed, but it always came. And I was traveling around Europe, particularly Eastern Europe, with preaching the full gospel and seeing all sorts of miracles happening. And I was coming back from Warsaw, and a very pretty woman got onto the aircraft, and I thought, oh, I hope she sits next to me, and she did. And she said, would I pray? She asked me how the time had gone, and she said, would you pray for my daughter? And I said, yes. And I got 2 impressions in the back of my head. One was something to do with the kidney. And the second thing was, I want you to pray for the person who is suffering from a disease of the central nervous system, and he's gradually becoming immobile. It's paralyzing him, and he's got much worse in the last 6 weeks. And I said this to her, and is that what's wrong with your daughter? No, it was the kidney. So we prayed for the kidney, and that girl slept through the night for the first time ever that night. The girl was in Warsaw. And then she said, but I know the person who's got the symptoms that you described. It's a Polish friend of my father's who lives near us in Leatherhead, near my parents in Leatherhead. And I said, well, if you can get him to come to the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship dinner tonight in Kingston, he'll be healed. And she said, well, I don't know. My father will know his telephone number, but to turn out suddenly because somebody has a story about you on the aircraft, don't be ridiculous. But it wasn't wasn't her father who picked her up from the airport. It was his friend who, with his wife, came along to the dinner, and of course he got healed. So I kept on seeing all sorts of things like that, and I'm still seeing them happening now. You will hear next week, or at the next session, from one of the people in my prayer group whose sister was cured of cancer after the doctors had given up on her. But recently, on the 27th of March last year, this is just to show you that God never stops surprising you. On the 27th of March, I was thinking, you know the text, Mark 9:23 and Matthew 17:14-21. If you have trust as tiny as a mustard seed, you will be able to say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it'll move. Indeed, nothing will be impossible for you. And on the 27th of March, I prayed for more trust. I said, help my unbelief. And at 6:15, I started writing it down on my computer. And this is an excerpt from it. Is your faith, your trust in me, still too weak to see the mountain move? Is it still too weak to drive out all the demons you encounter on your way? Then come back to me in prayer. Give me what time you need to listen to all I want to say to you about these things or these enemies of yours. Let me show you what I'm doing and how I'm going to do it. Spend all night listening to me if you need. And after some words about demons, he said, as for the mountain, I will let you see all you need to know, the source of the earthquake, or the volcano under pressure about to blow its cap. Then you will stand firm in the vision that I've given you, in the power that I've delegated to you to speak in the name of my son Jesus, proclaiming what I have shown you is just about to happen now, as you speak it out. And then I testified about this to our congregation on the 29th of March, 2 days later. And I realized the significance of the timing. Only 10 minutes after I wrote it, the earthquake in Mandalay occurred, with the second 10 minutes after the first. So the very act of giving my testimony led me to a greater understanding. He showed me all this to show that we do not do miracles. We speak to a mountain and tell it to move only because we are proclaiming what God is about to do. He then does the miracle. The same applies to healing. He healed, so I saw Jesus heal people, 6 different people besides myself. And he said, anyone who trusts in me will do the works that I'm doing. But we don't have a healing ministry. We have no power ourselves, only he has power. All we do is to trust him, ask him to show us what he wants to do, and then proclaim it. But we must trust him even when we don't understand it and it may seem terrible to us. If you read Job or Habakkuk or any of the minor prophets, the day of the Lord is terrible. Our God does not spare us from suffering. He uses it to bring us to depend only on him. We have his peace only when we walk in darkness and have no light other than God himself. And this is what he said to me later. Your ways are not my ways. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. You would put a plaster on a cut. You would avoid suffering wherever possible. You would turn stones into bread for the hungry. You would protect your children from the fire. But I let you feel the heat, the pain of its flames. My way is the way of the cross and suffering, not to resist the evil man, but to turn evil into good. Your way is to bring a peace that is no peace. My peace is to bring my true shalom into the hearts of all my people, to lead them through the desert with only enough manna for one day at a time. So first listen to God, and then do not fail to proclaim it. Don't fail to testify to his power. Thank you very much.